Welcome to You're 18, Now What? Thank you for joining me on this great Tuesday. I'm Dr. Katherine Gilstein, and I am looking forward to empowering you with information about financial literacy and economic empowerment. I will continue to post on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, but I will be adding to my podcast depending on the great interviews that I have lined up. Today, I am joined by Dr. David Kunick, founder and CEO of UCS Advisors, and he's going to share with us his experience around entrepreneurship, building business credit, and exit strategies. Thank you, Dr. David. Welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you
Tell
for
us a
having
little
me
bit
today,
about
Catherine.
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, no worries. Tell us about you and how you got started from your trajectory of moving and pivoting.
Sure. So my background by trade is I'm actually a physical therapist. And a lot of people say, what? You help people raise money and you help entrepreneurs, but you're actually a physical therapist. So I actually was a physical therapist in my very, very early 20s. And my goal was to always open up my own physical therapy clinics before the age of 30. And my goal was always to sell them. And back then, when I was like 15 years old, to retire by the time I'm 35. Now, that was the goal back then, but I started my first physical therapy clinic when I was 24 years old. I did multiple
Nice.
expansions, and we were actually voted one of the top, we were voted the number one physical therapy clinic for 7 years in a row in one of the top 15 richest counties in America. And I was very blessed where I was able to sell all my physical therapy clinics by the time I was 32. So think about that.
Nice.
Everything I wanted to achieve since I was 15 or 16, become a physical therapist, open up a clinic, expand my clinics and sell them, I achieved by the time I was 32. But from there, I actually started several other companies. I took a company public here in the United States by doing what's called my own S1, which is pretty much building your house from scratch. I also took another company public over in Frankfurt, Germany. And from there, out of need and demand, in 2017, I started my company UCS Advisors, and UCS stands for Use Common Sense.
I
Because
love
when,
that.
thank you. Because when it came to raising money and finding out how you can get money for your business, it's not your lawyer's job to do that. It's not your accountant's job to do that. And a lot of business coaches, they focus on working in the business to expand your current operations rather than helping to raise capital. So who do you turn to? Where do you go? And a lot of people don't want to go to an incubator or an accelerator because
Hmm.
it's very much they teach you one way to do it and they also take equity of your company. So where do you go to say, hey, I have questions when it comes to raising capital? Or statistically speaking, over 80% of businesses that are less than 5 years old don't qualify for a small business loan.
True.
Most companies also don't qualify for grants. So where do you go to get the advice? And so we're really filling that niche. And in today's day and age, people like using the word fractional. So we're
Hmm.
fractional capital raising advisors. And we've been doing that since 2017.
Nice. And it's definitely something that is needed, especially if your business is less than 5 years old. So there's not much out there and not much support there.
And a great example is this. We've been blessed to have a couple clients go on Shark Tank here in the United States. We just had a
Hmm.
client go on Dragon's Den in Canada, which is their equivalent of Shark Tank. And
Hmm.
people watch these shows, Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, but people forget they're not going after venture capital. They're not going after hedge funds. They don't really know how to approach friends and family. They don't know how to approach and utilize their contact list. So we're coming in and we're really helping out with networking skills, putting together a proper investor data room, or as I say, oh, Catherine, you need $10 million for your company. How are you going to raise the first million or the first 500,000? And you
Hmm.
say, I don't know. And that's where we come in. And where people really like working with us is that we work by the hour, so we're cost effective. But most
Okay.
importantly, we're teaching you the skill set. The Mark Cubans of the world, the Richard Bransons of the world, the Kevin O'Learys of the world. They all say the
I
same
love
exact
candid.
thing. If you are going to own a business, the
Mhm,
very first skill you need to learn is how to raise capital and how to manage
mhm,
investors.
mhm. Fair. So do you have a group of people that you work with? How many people on your team? Or do you have one person who you assign to somebody, or do you have a group of people that are working with that person for their small business?
Great question. And we are not an agency, I'm very proud to say.
Okay.
We're not an agency, we are a small team. I at one point had over 300 contractors working for me around the country. It was chaos. It was a human resources nightmare. My
I
business
can imagine.
mentor, excuse me?
I said I can imagine. That's
Oh,
an awful
definitely.
lot. Too many. Too many.
Oh, exactly. And so
Mhm,
from there, my old business mentor used to joke around with me. He goes, by the time you're in your 40s, you're going to want a small team, and that's it. I was young and naive in my late 20s, early 30s. Like, that will never happen. That's never happened. I'm in my
mhm,
mid 40s now, and I have a small team that works for me. And depending on what needs to be done, we all have our different specialties. But the one great thing about working with us here at UCS Advisors is you're getting me. We're not passing you off. One of the biggest complaints we would get from other people is that, oh, well, I talked to this one guy, but I'm now dealing with a salesperson, or I barely get to talk to him, or I have to upgrade to a VIP package to actually have him give me the advice. With us, we really take that hands-on approach. And I'm a medical guy, Catherine, at heart. And as a medical guy, it's our duty in our
healthy.
medical code of ethics to empower and to educate.
Mhm,
So
helping
really
people,
what we're doing
absolutely.
is we're exactly, we're also taking that medical approach towards business where some people, especially who are very analytical,
Mhm,
they think raising capital is a cookie cutter system, but that's completely wrong. Raising money is like a living, breathing organism. It's like a baby. It
mhm,
changes every day. And that's where
and
we come in and
it
we take
needs
that medical
to.
approach towards business. Exactly.
And you can't use a one size fits all because the business is different, the structure is different, the competitors are different, the customer is different. So all of those aspects go into it. And I think it's really important to have that individualized contact system where you're not being passed over. And I found that a lot when I was in banking. And you come in and you want to help people with loans and stuff to get houses or cars or whatever the case may be, and you start working with them, and then your boss says, "Oh no, you need to take that and send it to the back office." Well, that's great, but what happens when the client calls me?
Oh,
Then I don't
exactly.
have the answer because now it went to somebody else. So there's no personalized attention there. And I think that's what's lacking. So going back to those soft skills, as they call them, of individualized, I think that is coming back. So that's a really huge piece. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about was building business credit. So we know about personal credit for
Yep.
yourself, but when it comes to business credit, it's a whole different animal. So, how do you go about talking about building business credit, how to start, where to begin, what to do?
So why don't we start from the very, very, very beginning? Okay.
Mhm.
Something we say here at UCS Advisors, we give out what's called Dr. David's Green Nugget Advisory Tips. And our number one Green Nugget advisory tip is failure to plan is planning to fail.
Oh, absolutely.
So right off the
Absolutely.
bat, if you do not have a business bank account, you're not a real business. Just plain simple.
Fair.
And most people forget that. You need to have a business bank account. So right off the bat, and one of the best ways to build some business credit is incorporate your company, whether it's an LLC, a C corp, an S corp, and open up a bank account.
So
Even if you
easy.
don't think you're going to do something for a few years, have it anyway.
Hmm.
Put some deposits in there. Let the bank start to know that, hey, you're going to be a long-term customer. Another great example is once you start that business and you have that business account, and let's just call it Catherine's LLC, just for our conversation
Yay.
today.
Okay. Sure.
So Catherine's LLC, even though you may not do anything with it for maybe a year, open up a bank account. And I always tell people this, open up a bank account at a different bank other than where you keep your personal accounts.
Oh my gosh, I so agree with that. I have my personal banking, and then when I opened up my business, I did Amex business checking, like
Yep,
totally,
exactly.
totally separate entities. Very, very
So
important.
open up a business account at a different bank. So now you can start to build a banking relationship. Start doing some deposits. It can even just be $100 a month. It doesn't have to be a lot.
Mhm.
All right. The next thing you can do is that if there's anything you're going to need to buy, maybe for office supplies, maybe it's even a gas credit card, go get a couple small little credit cards. It could be a gas card for your business. It could just be a small, maybe you're gonna get office supplies, do it through the business. Start to actually pay some very basic bills through the business. And that's the most basic way to start to build business credits.
So let me ask you this, would it be okay to just pay stuff for the business from the business checking account, or you do recommend having a separate business credit card for the business as well?
You can do that, but if you want to start to build some additional business credit,
Mhm.
and an old trick is sometimes there's so many different office supply companies. Great. Start to buy your pens. Instead of going to Staples,
Mhm.
buy the pens online through one of the office supply companies through the business debit card. Okay.
Okay.
On top of that, too, if you wanted to, as you develop your banking relationship, like up here in New England, there's a lot of smaller banks. And a lot of these smaller banks are encouraging you and they want to give you a business credit card. Great. Get that business card. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. Maybe they only give you $500 credit.
Right, but use it for gas, use it for paper for the printer, any supplies that you need, ink,
Exactly.
something. Just a little bit of something
Exactly.
to start building. Okay.
And then if you want to take it another step further, if you know you're going to be really aggressive with your business in due time, another way you can do is open up more than one business account. At one point, for one of my companies, we had business accounts at four different banks because each bank did lines of credit differently. Each bank did credit cards differently. Everyone, excuse me, works differently. So from there, we want to build as much business credit as possible and also build more banking relationships as well too.
Yeah, banking relationships are very important. And I know not a lot of people go into the bank as often, but when you have a business banking account, you are speaking to the bank more often. You are definitely building that relationship more than on the
Exactly.
personal side.
And then that goes down to also take a step further. It also works in your networking skills.
Hmm.
And here's a great example. Here at UCS Advisors, I tend to host some events around the country. And people say, why are you inviting bankers? Well, bankers want new business too. Bankers want to feel included as well, also.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
and I recently held an event in June of 2025. And there were, I won't say the names of the banks, but three banks showed up. All three bankers said, wow, this was the best networking event I've been to in the last 4 years, which is a great
Nice.
compliment to me. And I asked all the bankers,
Absolutely.
I go, what made it so great?
Yeah, what was different?
They go, and there was no hardcore agenda. Everyone was here just to meet with one another, talk some business with one another, and just to build a relationship. And what I did was when I host my events, I'm trying to really be a super connector. And I made sure I invited startup companies, businesses that are already doing 7 or 8 figures a year came as
Mhm.
well too. I brought hedge funds as well also. So now everyone can kind of talk in a nice casual laid back environment with no clear objective.
I think that's really important. And I think a lot of people misuse networking and they start reaching out to people to ask them for something. And that's not what networking is.
No, that's prospecting. And it's interesting you
Yeah,
say that.
it's
We have
very
to,
different.
so
Hmm.
part of what we do here at UCS Advisors, remember, use common sense.
Right.
A lot of people do not have proper networking skills. A lot of
Correct.
people are not trained. I am a certified networking professional. I teach professional networking, and we have to tell people If you're going to prospect, it's okay to go prospect, but let people know. And here's an example, Catherine. Catherine, I meet you at an event. Hi, my name's Dr. David of UCS Advisors. Catherine, I am mainly here just to meet business owners who are less than 5 years old. Is that you? No, that's not me. Great. Thank you, Catherine. Do you know someone here you can introduce me to? No, I don't. Catherine, I'm here to prospect, not to network. I wish you the best. And it's okay to be forthright. And that's what people forget. Where while networking,
Hmm.
it's givers gain. It's paying it forward. How can we start to build a relationship that might lead to something down the road?
Yeah, and I think that's also a long game that some people don't have the patience for or don't want to do or think they can cut corners doing. And I think that's where the initial small businesses get into trouble is that they don't realize that the networking, it's not a 1 month thing or a 3 month thing. Like it's a process and it takes a while and you're going to be building relationships constantly
And
and
it's also about the
keep
follow
working
up.
on
It's about the
them.
follow ups. It's working
Exactly.
on your
Keep
elevator
working on
commercial,
them.
and that's also where too. And when it comes to raising capital, we always tell people, we have to remind them, you're asking for money at the very, very end, not in the beginning. You're building a relationship, and
Mhm.
something where we have to really change the mindset is just because you need money right now doesn't mean the investor's ready to give you money right now.
Correct.
Start to build that relationship. People say, well, I'm pre-revenue. I have nothing going on. It's okay. We can start to build your database. You can start to meet people. And here's a great example. We had a client in New York City, and this client, she was very much an introvert. So we really worked on her on a 60-second elevator pitch, and we actually helped find events that she could go to. And her elevator commercial was simple. Hi, I won't say her, I'm going to change her name just for this conversation. We're going to call her Emily. All right.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm thinking about starting a company before the end of the year. So I'm just trying to meet different people in different sectors who might be able to help me on my journey. So I'm just here to listen and to learn. She was in shock, Catherine. She's like, everyone was giving
Perfect.
me their business cards. People want to follow with me. She's like, they weren't
Yes.
selling me. They're like, thank you for being forthright. Great. When you're ready, reach out to me. How can I help you on this journey? Next thing you know, because what she was doing was healthcare related. When it came to her to actually start to raise money, she already had over 300 contacts to reach out to that she met over 3 months. And she was in shock, and she's like, I had no idea I can start to do work now in the meantime.
Absolutely. And I think people are also forget that other people are willing to help you.
Hmm.
You just need to ask. And I think that's the hardest
Exactly.
part is asking. And it's okay to say, I am just starting my business. I'm meeting new people. If something should come up, if you know of someone who's in this sector, why not? And I think being
Exactly.
forthcoming and open and honest about that relationship up front is so important. And that networking, it lasts. I mean, even when you're in your business 5 years or 6 years, those contacts, they're still going to be there. You're still going to be following up with them. You're still going to be checking in with them. They might even reach out to you and say, hey, spoke to you, haven't heard from you in a
Hmm.
while. How's the business going? Is there anything else you need help with? What can I support you with?
Exactly.
And people are always willing to do that. And I think people forget that.
They
That's a
they
really good
do.
tip.
They definitely tend to forget that.
Mhm. So, and I've spoken to other entrepreneurs and I've had other entrepreneurs on my podcast as well. But I want to ask about exit strategy,
Okay.
especially since you had a few different businesses.
Hmm.
Because everybody always knows how they're getting into business. I want to do this. I want to start this. I want to go here. I want to do this. We're all gung ho and everything. But then there comes a point in time where you need an exit strategy. So either you don't want to be in business any longer, you're not interested in being in business longer, or God forbid, health related, you can't be in business any longer. Because we both know you retire for two reasons: you want to or you have to. And if you have to, that's an immediate decision and you need to be able to do it. So, what
Exactly.
about exit strategy? How was that working for you? How did
So,
you go
so for
about
the
that,
other,
or
so
how
for
did you
the,
know? How
so
did
for
you
the,
know it was time?
so great question about timing and on that, and it's
Yeah,
a
a
very,
lot of
very,
questions in there. I apologize.
yeah, no, it's okay. So let's take a step back,
Sure.
okay? Um, and let's look at a few things. Let's start at the beginning of the journey, okay? Most people say that, oh, I don't want to be sellout. How dare you ask what my exit strategy is going to be? Well, you need to know that when you start a business. And
Agreed.
I'm gonna give a few examples. We had a client in Maine. She had a great business. She was doing over $600,000 a year. She thought she wanted to raise money. When we started taking through the process, she's like, David, I want this business passed on to my grandchildren. I don't want a lot of investors. I want to maintain control. This is just going to be a family business for the next several generations. Okay, she knew it took her a while, but that's what she wanted. Other
Hmm.
people will say, okay, well, my business, I'm mainly building it up for it to get acquired, and that's it. Okay. And other people will start a business to say, I have an objective maybe for the first 5 to 6 years, depending what happens, then I'll make a decision whether or not if I want to try to sell the business, maybe I'll just let the business just I'll shut down completely. And using myself to answer another part of your question, I've started a lot of companies, plain and simple. Some
Hmm.
of my companies, when I started, I'm like, hey, this company will only be a 5 year run. And I know it'll only be 5 years. I did a merchant services company. I know nothing about merchant services, nothing at all. But I had a really good
Why
opportunity
not?
to acquire a company.
Why not? Yes.
And we did such a good job with it. The person we bought the company from bought it back from us in less than 9 months.
Nice.
But when we did that company, we knew that'd be a 2 year company, and that's it.
Hmm.
We had another company. I had a newsletter company, and the reason why I did the newsletter company was I didn't want to pay someone else to do it. That's it. And I took one of my employees and I gave them a really good offer where I'm like, this can be your baby. We'll pay the bills, and we're gonna give you some really great profit sharing on for you. For them, what it was is that they didn't really do much with it. And they told us after 6 months, I don't enjoy doing this. I don't want to run this company. That company, we said, you know what? It's not making us a lot of money. We're just gonna let it go defunct. We're not gonna renew the business license, and we're just gonna let it fall on the wayside. And that's okay. But when you're starting a company, and if you think you're gonna need money for your company, whether it's from a bank, friends and family, private investors, hedge funds, family wealth offices, whatever, you need to figure out what the game plan for the company is. And let me also give you another example, which we didn't talk about, Catherine. It's okay if one of your exit strategy is, hi, I'm not going to be the CEO anymore. I know I'm going to be replaced. We currently have a company right now down in South Carolina. This woman's very smart, but she's in a sector she doesn't know that much about. We're helping her on her capital raising journey. And we had
Okay.
to tell her on our second call, say, listen, you admit you don't really know how to grow this company. You admit that if it could get to the level you think it can get to, you're going to be in over your head. Do you think you can get replaced as CEO? And her response was, I can't wait to get replaced by someone who knows this better than I do. And that was a great mindset. What's
Hmm.
scary, Catherine, is when we talk to a founder, a business owner who says,
Hmm.
no, I'll be in charge forever.
And I think it's important for people to know their limitations. You can't be the everything in your company. You need to know how to delegate. You need to know what your strengths are, who you can bring on to add to their strengths. And I think that's a really good point about people who start their own business, who want to be the CEO and they want to be the CFO and they want to be the CIO and they want to be chief of staff and all of that. But you can't do all of that.
And I
You can in the
also,
beginning.
well, that's the difference between a business owner versus an entrepreneur. And
Mhm.
it's interesting when I go to networking events and we talk to some people and I go, are you a business owner or an entrepreneur? Because there's a big difference. And it's
Mhm.
amazing how many people say, I don't understand. And I go, business owner, and here's a great example. I like to talk about blue collar workers. A lot of business owners, that some of them are blue collar, have their own carpentry business or their own, maybe they're electrician, their own plumbing
Right.
business.
Landscaping,
They
absolutely.
they
Yes.
like what they
Hmm.
do, but they don't want to work for someone else. They want to
Hmm.
work for themselves. Great. That's a business owner, plain and simple. While an entrepreneur is working on a business, but also sees, okay, what's the next opportunity? What's the next opportunity? What's the next opportunity? When I started my first company, DMC Athletics and Rehab, I was a business owner. As I
Hmm.
expanded and started other companies, then I slowly evolved into being an entrepreneur. And I still have colleagues who are physical therapists. They own two physical therapy clinics. They're very happy. I'm proud to
Hmm.
say 11 of my former employees for my physical therapy clinics all own their own physical therapy clinics now.
Oh,
And they're
nice.
very happy. They still use some of my
Hmm.
SOPs, which makes me still feel
Hmm.
good 10 years plus, 10 plus years later.
Yes.
But they're like,
Hmm.
I just like working for myself. I don't want to expand. I don't want to be this big, huge gleam. I just want to work for myself. And there's
And there's
nothing
nothing
wrong with
wrong with
that.
that.
It's
Absolutely.
just it's
Nothing
just
wrong with that.
be
Perfect.
forthright. And we tend
Hmm.
to work with a lot of business owners also who say, "Oh, no one wants to invest in my business." And then it's interesting. There's someone by the name of Cody Sanchez. She has something called contrarian like thinking. She has a lot on LinkedIn. She has a good podcast, and it's about
Hmm.
thinking outside the box. And it's also investing in small businesses. During COVID, we were actually contracted by over 5 restaurants slash bars to help them raise capital. And like, who's
Hmm.
going to invest in a bar or a restaurant? Look what's
Right.
going on with COVID. And I'm like, no, if you put together a right package, the right offering, let's hit up your email list. Let's actually start to take smaller amounts of money because a lot of people just want to say, hey, I own 1% of this bar just because it
Right.
sounds cool. Like I want to share.
It is true.
And they were amazed how quickly they were able to raise money. One of my and another thing is too, when it comes to the exit strategy is it's okay to verbalize what you want to do. We helped a client. She was in business for 3 years. She owns a wine bar, like wine.
Nice.
And she couldn't qualify for a bank loan. Another bank loan wanted her to put her house up as collateral, which she wasn't going to do. So from there, we told her, you're part of the Rotary Club. Talk to people in the Rotary Club about what you're doing. She was ashamed. And I go, you told me point blank you want this business for at least the next 10 years. You only need a loan. You don't want to give out equity. Let people know in the Rotary what you're doing in practice. She was anti. We're like, be forthright. Let everyone know you want to be part of this community for the next 10 years. You have no desire to sell, but in order to grow the business, you need a loan. She gave a presentation to the Rotary Club. Next thing you know, a guy in the Rotary Club goes, how much money do you need? What are your terms? She says it out loud. He goes, honey, you better not give this opportunity to anyone else. We'll meet right after this Rotary meeting because I will just
Perfect.
give you the money myself. Then in turn from there, she told her father about this. Her father goes,
Mhm.
I'm not letting some stranger from the Rotary Club give my daughter money. Forget this. I'm going to go to the bank myself and get the bank loan and just give you the money. And she was like,
Mhm.
oh my God, I had no idea how many people that wanted to help me. And I told her because you had a clear, concise game plan. You were forthright, and you also told people you're not looking to sell this to a large corporation, that you just want to be part of the community for the next decade. People will help and support you.
Yeah, I agree. People are always willing to help, and I think it's just a matter of asking. Um, Anything else you want to add to changing, starting, exiting, building credit?
Now, a few things I will add is that our website, ucsgreatness.com, has two key features. One, we have a free investor ready quiz. So if you don't know if you're ready to talk to investors, we offer a free investor ready quiz. That's
Okay.
something we recommend for everyone to do. You get instant results. A second thing to think about is Know what your options are. Another great example on our website, ucsgreatness.com, we actually work with a third-party loan program that gives up to $500,000 of unsecured debt. We tell every business owner, fill out the application, see what you qualify for. You can always say no to the money, but see what you
Correct.
qualify for, because now you can use this as perspective. One of the biggest mistakes we make when people want to start a business, one of the biggest mistakes we see when people say, I have no money and no one's going to help support me, is they don't go out and see what they actually might qualify for and see what those terms are. People say, I got rejected from the bank. Why would someone else give me money? Well, the banks have very black and white procedures.
Banks are very different. Yes, they have certain rules and regulations they need to follow. There are certain guidelines. You have to meet certain
Yeah.
parameters. Whereas getting money elsewhere is very
Yeah.
different.
And the other thing
Mhm.
for your listeners is the third Wednesday of each month, we actually host what's called an Ask Me Anything about capital raising.
Oh,
And
that's
we
awesome.
on the third Wednesday of every month from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's free. People come online and we answer as many questions as we can about capital raising, but we also use it as a teaching moment as well too. The last piece of advice for all these listeners is this. The name of our company is UCS Advisors. We're advisors. An advisor means that you work on a company's short-term and long-term goals while using an interdisciplinary approach, but also has real-life experience. Why do I bring this up? Is that there are a lot of consultants who don't have real-life experience. That's why they're a consultant and not an advisor. So if you are a business owner, you are an entrepreneur, and you're trying to seek advice for raising money or how to get a bank loan or so forth and so on, make sure whoever you're getting the advice from has real life experience. What's really
Absolutely.
interesting is that and I'm sure you see it with your students as well too,
Hmm.
people are getting advice and they say, oh, well, my parents said this, or Uncle Johnny said that, or my best friend's father said this. And my question is, how many companies have they started and have they sold? Have they ever
Right.
dealt with investors? Have they ever dealt with a cap table? How many times have they gotten a business loan for themselves? And ask the questions. So I always tell people, ask the questions about the person before you take the advice, because you might be getting bad advice. And that's one of the biggest mistakes we see with young entrepreneurs and young business owners.
Yeah, so true. And this is why I have people like you on my podcast because I know my limitations. I know money, I know credit, I know investments, but when it comes to starting and selling businesses, multiple businesses, or raising capital, not my area of expertise. So um, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having
Um,
me today. This is great.
yeah, no problem. So be open to learning, be open to listening, ask questions. What more do you want to know? Visit my website at your18nowwhat.com and drop me a line, send a question or a comment. Remember, be invaluable for what you share, not what you know. See you next time on Your 18 Now What, where you could always find the latest podcast episode to listen to, follow, share, and subscribe. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you.